It's time. It's time. Okay, so sorry for not popping in yesterday. um, I forgot that when the littles are here, doing anything is pretty much impossible. So we need to do better, right? And the better that we need to do is womp womp, is pre-recording as much of what I can as possible. And I think I need to make a list. Okay. And knock everything over. That's also super cool. So we're gonna make a little quick list. I've been doing that a lot. I've been making a little list. So YouTube. Okay, there we go. Ha! Tiny list made! Tiny list! So, for those of you who don't know, it's Monday, which means it's time for Monday motivation. Or something that looks like motivation. Spoiler alert, no motivation today. I'm Aradia and I am the resident witch and creatrix of Aradia's Hand and Today's Divine, where I create myth, magic, and meaning for your everyday life through art, intuition, and energy work. And I like to talk about motivation on Mondays, mostly because it's the first day of the work week, and after a weekend, sometimes it's hard to get started, and so I like to share what helps me get started, but also acknowledge all those times when we're not motivated, because the reality is whether you're motivated or not, you still probably have stuff to do, and so we've sometimes got to grin and bear it, sometimes we've got to just push through it, sometimes we've got to accept that we're not going to get stuff done, and everything's kind of on a case-by-case basis, so it's really important to kind of acknowledge that. And the reality is, I think a lot of people talk about, having motivation and pushing through and doing it anyway, and maybe don't necessarily want to acknowledge all the times they don't have energy to do things and they don't feel like it and they can't push through. And then you also have to look at it through the lens of, chronic and invisible illnesses. Sometimes that's just not a thing, or, what it looks like for people who are neurodivergent. It's like, we're kind of stuck and sucked into this productivity spiral of constantly doing and constantly having more things added and whatnot. And the real reality is that those things differ from time to time. They differ from situation to situation, and they differ from person to person. And so, you can adjust things the best you can, really. And yeah. So, what's motivating me this week? Honestly, I'm not feeling it. I really didn't get any work done today. I instead took a little bit of a wild detour. Went on an outing this morning that was actually very unexpected and last minute. I made the decision yesterday to go out today. And I had a pleasant time. And it was a nice little kind of break, which I don't take breaks from work often. I brought a project with me. I did get to the gym. And then I just kind of stayed out for a couple hours. And, it was nice to not be in work mode, constantly, I guess. Even though, there's a part of me that's like, you didn't do any work this morning. You have all that work to do. I'm like, shh, be quiet. I know. I'm kind of hoping I can make up for it this weekend. I don't know if that's going to happen. Really. But we're going to call it worth it. So, whatevs, right? So this week is probably going to be a push through it, grin and bear it kind of weekend. Which, is not my favorite way to function, but I also don't like taking extra rest either, because then I feel guilty and that just causes problems. So the thing with the reality is, it's really easy to talk about how you should just not do things. We should just not be party to the productivity machine and the cycle and all of the really unhealthy, really unsustainable things. But the reality is we still live in that culture. We still live in that space. And to a point, you know, because we're so enmeshed in it on so many levels, like just extricating yourself from it entirely is also not really doable, like, all at once. Like, it would kind of, you know, elicit some, you know, possibly some really traumatic feelings, and push some buttons that don't need to be pushed, and then probably make you backpedal and spiral downwards. So do what you can, right? And I always function with the limit that if I can't do something, or if I am too tired, or if something is too much, then I stop. So I don't mention that, but there's always a line of too far or too much where I'm like, no, we're done. We're not going past here. You know, if I get to the point where I really just cannot keep my eyes open, I don't grab more caffeine and push through it. I say fuck it, and I accept that we're done for today, and whatever. If I'm sick, you know, I don't push myself. When I have things that are more pressing, you know, I will switch things around as I need to. And so I want to underline that I do that regardless of whether I, you know, explicitly say that that's what I'm doing. And I think it's just really, really important to acknowledge, because I think that's the other problem, is that, you know, we always focus on what people say, but there's so much stuff that doesn't get said, that doesn't get addressed, it's still part of, like, the whole thing. And that's relevant. Just like we don't like to share our failures, but those are super, super important because they happen a lot. So what I'm working on this week, well, I got all of February caught up in my planner. Yes, about damn time. Which is great, because that means that I could move on to January. So that's where I am. I've moved everything from January up to like the 5th or 6th, maybe the 7th or 8th of February so far. And most of it is a lot of promoting of some posts that I've already got up that I'd like to just do and get over with. So most of it's that stuff. Everything else has pretty much been moved up, but it's a good amount of posts. It's like 10 or 12 posts. So there's that. I've been switching between projects this week, or the last couple of days. So I worked on the Eileen bag a little bit for project time a little bit ago. If you caught that post on Instagram, which I'll link to that. Let's see, tonight's project time on Instagram. Okay. Did that this morning while I was out. I was working on my socks, and then of course I've got my A Matter of Friendship, aka the Matali shawl, going on. So, and you'll see links to all that stuff below. I'll put the link to the project page on Ravelry, the link to the pattern, and the link to the yarn and the needles that I'm using with all of these respectively. So let's see. And we like to do this. There we go. Save it so I don't accidentally close something and eat it. So that's fun. And then what else we got here? Mostly because the Eileen bag isn't really almost done. It's the base, the body, the top edging, and the handle. It's 4 parts, and I'm on part 2. And the body is the bulk of the bag, really. I would say it might be a tie between the body and the base of the bag, but anyway, whatever. So there's that. The Twin Tootsie socks are actually really close to done. I haven't looked at the yarn amount, but I'm at the top of the leg, approaching the cuff, and what I'm probably going to do is what I do with all my socks, which is just a hey, by the way. Because I want an inch of cuff, what I do is I base, you know, however much an inch is, I will work till pretty much where the cast off would be. When I have enough for a cast off, I think I go back one more row than that, and then take back however many rows. So if it's 10 rows, I would go back 11 rows. Rounds, excuse me. And that's just to make sure that I have enough yarn for the bind off, because I use the super stretchy bind off, and it uses extra yarn, and so it's important that you have like enough. So and there's not like really a great perfect way. That's the thing about estimating yarn amounts in it's really hard to do. Like, you could, the actual most accurate would be to use it up, cut it, and then weigh it, and that would tell you like how much you need to perform an action. But when it comes to something like socks, that's not really doable. So I just kind of guesstimate, and I usually have like really small amounts of yarn left, which is my goal. I want to use as much of the yarn as possible, which kills my whole like Franken sock goal. But honestly, I would much rather have like no sock yarn left than have a bunch of like weird odd amounts of sock yarn. So like my goal is to make the tallest socks possible. When I go and do a bunch of socks that are ankle socks, I'll have a lot more left over, but I might just like make 2 or 3 pairs of ankle socks. But I don't know. I like ankle socks like a lot. I haven't decided on exactly what size an ankle sock I want. I should probably pull these. I have some ankle socks down there by me in my shoes. I'm going to check those out, and then I can decide. Oh, I want an X amount of space above my heel. I could do that. Anyway, irrelevant. Those aren't for now. That's after I get through all my sock stash. I want all the tall socks first, because I'm a weirdo. So there's that. I'm also working on the pricing this week. So, okay. I spent this weekend printing actually 2 worksheets out. So I've got this. So this is how my whole pricing project thing is going. So I've got to update the project sheet, which the project sheet, let's see if I can pull one out so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is what my project sheets look like, right? Okay, and it's just all the notes on my project. So the name, where I got it, if I used a pattern, whether it's one of my designs, the hook, the materials, how long I worked on it, how big it is, all the information that you would want to know about a project, especially if you wanted to make it over again. Which is kind of funny because I had no intention of remaking anything, but if there's like specific elements that I really want to remake, it's so much more helpful if I've written notes. I'll also put color patterns in there. Like the sequences of colors and the colors I use and stuff like that. On the back is my pricing sheet. So that's the next one that I have to do. And then I have on the other side is the pay yourself sheet, which is from a workshop that I took about pricing so that you could pay yourself. Because that's actually, like, honestly, that's the thing a lot of artists don't do, is we don't compensating yourself properly, like in a way that you can actually pay yourself, is not something a lot of artists do, and it very quickly comes to bite you in the ass, right? If you don't charge enough, you can't make enough, and if you charge so little that you would have to basically work yourself to the bone, and you're not able to do that, which you probably shouldn't do it, even if you're able to do it, because the whole working yourself to the bone just like sounds like a horrible idea. Says the child of a Capricorn, who in fact did that several times. Anyway, you've got it. Part of it is really like working smarter, not harder. So if you need to sell 20 widgets to make what you want to make, and you only have time to make 10 widgets, then that tells you that you need to change something, right, to make that math work. Either those widgets need to be more expensive so that 10 will do it, or you need to evaluate maybe not making that widget, making something else. I love the word widget. I don't know why I like widget. It's funny, widgets. So those are things to consider, and they're important bits of information. All that being said, obviously, that's kind of oversimplifying the math. Like at its core, that's what it is. But there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of variables, and you know those things matter in the equation, and they have to be taken into consideration because, you know, how are you ordering your supplies? You know, how are you using your supplies? How are you keeping track of things? Blah 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 blah, and all that like super duper matters. So yeah, that's the thing. But I've got that worksheet, and then I've been making spreadsheets. Basically, the whole point of the spreadsheet is like to do the bulk of the math and make the whole copy pasting of like materials a lot easier. It's kind of a double check for my math, actually, really, because I do everything by hand and then I double check it that way. And then I have to go to update to inventory, which means updating all the numbers because I have a bunch of numbers in my inventory. And then update the price on my third-party website, which I use for my international shipping, which for some reason, if you're curious, I'll link it there. And of course my shop itself, which I'll also link. Okay, so so really the funny thing about it is that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's actually 7 steps, which would be why I'm not done yet. But I decided the new approach was, instead of doing 1 through 7 for each thing, or even for groups of things, I decided that, okay, let's print all of these worksheets out for everything. And then print all of this worksheet out for everything. And then print all of this worksheet out for everything. And then, okay, now let's fill out all of this worksheet for everything. And so then it would just be kind of done all in one fell swoop. And even if I just did all of the, broke it down past this and said, okay, well, I'm going to fill out each thing for each thing. I don't have to like start over from scratch each time, and it's kind of the whole working smarter, not harder, but also just considering what is going to be like the best use of your time. So yeah, that's the thing. So the next phase, I've printed out all the project sheets. Now I'm going to fill out all the project sheets. And most of the filling of the project sheets, I would say, is what takes the most amount of time. What ends up happening is some of my projects have great notes. They're really clear. They're really obvious. Some of them have like 50 pieces of paper that are all scattered and crumpled or hard to read, or, you know, written with a bunch of other stuff. And so deciphering and putting all that together and condensing it is actually a lot of work. And so that probably is honestly the most work of the whole process. Because the math is pretty straightforward. Double checking the math is pretty extensive because I'm going to make sure that I remember everything for everything and don't forget anything. And that can be hard because what ends up happening is I forget something, I realize I forget something, and then I'm like, oh shit, where else did I forget that? And that's been having me go back and forth. So, yeah, I was originally gonna do all the math and just update everything all at once. And I realized that if I sold something in the meantime that had been repriced, but that I hadn't updated the price with, and I sold it for less money, I was gonna probably be kind of pissed. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I said, fuck it, we're just gonna raise the prices as we fix the math and just call it a day. So there we go. That's what we're doing. All right. This video ran a little longer. I had a little random thoughts coming up, but I need to go because I need to get it over. And if I want to get this video uploaded today, which I do, I need to make sure that I start the upload no later than 11. And yeah. All right. So tomorrow we're gonna hopefully be back to our regularly scheduled art hauls. I have a bunch of these done and made and like ready. It's just a matter of did I schedule it? And I know I didn't. So I need to make sure that I just get all that stuff scheduled and get it all up there and then just be done with it, and then I can just have it done. So we're talking about some planner stuff, I want to say, is tomorrow. I'm drawing a blank on exactly what part of my planner stuff. I got like the whole system. It's a lot of stuff. But we'll see that tomorrow. So hopefully, yeah, because I got the thing done. It's just a matter of just putting it up there. No excuses. All right. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for thanks for being subscribed and watching this video and liking and sharing and everything like that. Consider waltzing your lovely self over to my Patreon and becoming a patron there so I can continue to make free videos, but also so you can get in on some of my videos that are not free, which are my special ones that are magically related, a little more intuition, a little more extra bits. If you're watching this on Patreon, thank you for being a patron. Thank you for following. Thank you for being part of my community and you know, letting me into your inbox and hanging out with me. I really appreciate you being here and what it means as far as just you being there. It's super awesome. And if you enjoyed this video or you know somebody who would, please share it on your page. This is one of my public videos, so anybody can watch it. But the more support I get, the more fun videos I can do and the more I can offer to everybody. So it's really important. And that's kind of one of the big things that I would like to do this year is grow the space over here and like, you know, bring more stuff to the community and whatnot. Yeah. That's it. All right. So, toodles until tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you on tomorrow. Bye.